So this morning I'm going to talk about another LP that I've dug out of the boxes. This time we're still in the 70s and it's still 50 years old, pretty much. And it's this one. Hard to see there. Selling England by the Pound by Genesis. Their fifth studio album, still featuring Peter Gabriel. Now, when you first hear the opening line on Dancing with the Moonlit Night, you know you're in for something different. You know you're in for something progressive. You know you're in for something very, very English, quirky, whimsical in its nature, and it's kind of a look back to an older England, but with many contemporary stylings, many contemporary notions involved as well. This is not just a historical look back at old England. There's more going on here. I always thought that this was probably my favourite Genesis record of all time. I absolutely loved it. It takes you on this 50-minute journey, as I say, to a past time. Who is on the record? We still have the classic lineup, in my opinion, of Gabriel, Collins, Rutherford, Hackett and Banks. To me, that's the classic Genesis lineup. Absolutely. In fact, I liked it so much, I didn't just buy it once. I bought it twice. Now, oops, as you can see, I bought it twice, yes. The second time, in the late 80s, for some reason they released this gatefold version with all the lyrics. Now, I don't know why they did that, but when I saw it, I was like, I've got to have this. It's one of my favourite records. I don't mind buying it again. In fact, it's the only record I've ever bought again. And probably will be the only record I ever buy again. Obviously, apart from replacing stuff on CD, which in some cases was a mistake, because quite frankly the sound quality of some of those remasters on CD is really not as good as the vinyl. But that's another story. So, as I say, it kicks off with Dancing in the Moonlit Night. Then we have the single, I Know What I Like in Your Wardrobe, for 5th, and a little vocal on the end from Phil Collins called More Fool Me. So that's a spectacular side one. Side 2, again, it starts with this wonderful, wonderful piece called The Battle of Epping Forest. It fades in, which is unusual, and you're listening and you're thinking, I can only hear the record going around, I can't hear anything. But then in comes this kind of recorder flute sound from Gabriel, and the snare drum going on there, almost military, which is obviously meant to be. Then you have this wonderful instrumental after the ordeal, which works perfectly. Then we have the Cinema Show, another classic which would go on to be a live favourite of the band for many, many years. And finally, it ends with, I suppose it's a little bit throwaway, Isle of Plenty, which again is a comment on current English society. If you really listen to it, it's essentially a comment on current English society. So Gabriel was interested in not just looking back at the past, but also what was happening in England at the time. Now, the painting here on the front there is by Betty Swanwick, or Swanwick, a reasonably well-known artist from the earlier part of the 20th century. The lawnmower was apparently added afterwards, because the original doesn't have a lawnmower in it. It was apparently added afterwards. And there's obviously a reference to I Know What I Like in Your Wardrobe. So, as I said, it's the 5th studio album from Genesis. In this country it did very, very well, got to number 3. In America not as well, only getting to number 70. Now, critical acclaim, it was mixed. Clearly the public in Britain liked it, but there were mixed opinions by the critics. Not that they matter, but you know, they kind of do as well. They can make or break anything really, these people are quite powerful. One of the major criticisms was for long instrumental passages, which this record is full of. But I love that. I love Gabriel's voice, but I also love the long instrumental passages. And it's one of the reasons why this is one of my favourite Genesis albums of all time. Now, I don't know why. Maybe they didn't embrace it as much as they embraced previous records. But in Italy, which is a country that was very, very welcoming of Genesis and their music, it only got to number 4. Which surprised me a little bit, because it actually it got one better here. But I mean, you know, it didn't do anywhere near that well in any other part of Europe or in any other part of the world. So, have you heard Selling England by the Pound by Genesis? And if not, why not? It's a beautiful, beautiful record. If you like long instrumental passages, lots of keyboard, lots of piano, you will, I think, love this record. As I say, it's 50 years old, and it does sound it, don't get me wrong. These are dated sounds that we're listening to, but that doesn't make it a bad thing. I think even if you just listen once, just to see what exactly I'm babbling on about, do so, because you will hear music that would never ever be recorded today, ever. No band in the world is going to make music like this today. In fact, I think it would probably be illegal to make music like this, because this has come from people with, uncompromising people with individual thought processes of their own and not necessarily following anybody else. So, obviously you won't hear that nowadays from anybody because everything is so generic. There's nobody really doing their own thing anymore, in my opinion. Nobody that I can hear anyway. Maybe it's all been done, who can say. Anyway, have a listen to it and see what you think. I think if you enjoy lots of keyboard, a very English sound, you will love this. So, that's Genesis, Selling England by the Pound, from 1973.